Believe it or not, everything you're about to hear actually happened. And I still don't know whether to call it the biggest betrayal of my life or the gift that finally opened my eyes. My name is Sophia. I'm 32 years old, and I came back home to celebrate my birthday. I thought it would be a simple evening of family dinner, a cake, a couple of candles. Instead, my mom looked straight at me across our old kitchen table and said the words I'll never forget. "We had to cancel your birthday dinner. We need the money for your sister Sarah's trip to Europe." For a moment, I couldn't breathe. It felt like the ceiling had just collapsed on me. I was used to Sarah being the golden child, but hearing it out loud on my birthday felt like a knife to the chest. I grew up in a small town called Oakwood, California. Quiet streets, little traffic, a single main road. Our house was modest, with faded blue paint peeling off the walls, but my parents always insisted that comfort matters more than appearances. To them, comfort meant covering every wall with Sarah's trophies and medals, turning our living room into a shrine for my little sister's success. My dad, John, used to be an engineer but now spent his days fixing cars in the garage. My mom, Laura, taught 3rd grade at the local school and filled the house with the smell of fresh pastries. And then there was Sarah, 5 years younger than me, the star of the family. Dance competitions, soccer championships, debate teams, she shined everywhere. When I was 8, I brought home my very first spelling test with a perfect score. Dad gave me a quick good job before going back to his newspaper. That same night, Sarah, who was only 3 at the time, stacked a crooked tower out of blocks. My parents called it genius and took her out for ice cream. That contrast became the story of my childhood. By 16, I was working weekends at a local bookstore, saving for college. My parents said, "You're so responsible," as if it were praise. But in reality, it meant, "We won't help you because you'll manage on your own." All the family's money went to Sarah, her ballet costumes, out-of-town tournaments, private lessons, and birthdays. On my 16th, dinner was cancelled because Sarah had a competition. On my 18th, they forgot until 2 days later. By my 21st, I had stopped expecting anything at all. I never blamed Sarah directly. She wasn't mean on purpose. She just got used to being the center of attention. Sometimes, when it was just the two of us, we laughed and acted like real sisters. But those moments grew rarer every year. After college, I moved to San Francisco. I graduated with honors in computer science. My parents couldn't make it to my graduation. Sarah had another performance. I stood alone in a sea of caps and gowns, thinking, fine. I'll succeed so big they won't be able to ignore me anymore. I got my first job at a mid-sized tech company. I worked 14-hour days, taking the hardest projects, teaching myself new programming languages at night. Within 2 years, I was leading a department, but I wanted more. So I took a risk. I rented a tiny office, lived on instant noodles, and started my own company. The first year was brutal, an air mattress instead of a bed, constant fear of failure. But within 18 months, we built something revolutionary, an adaptive learning platform that helped kids study on personalized programs. Investors noticed. A venture fund gave us $5 million. That's how NovaTech was born. I never told my parents the truth. To them, I was just Sophia, the girl with the computer job. I even sent them money, pretending it came from work bonuses. My assistant, Jessica, always laughed, "You're a millionaire and they still think you're a secretary." Last year, I was listed in Forbes 30 under 30. A few months ago, we signed a $40 million contract with the largest school district in the state. And through it all, my family had no idea what I actually did. This year, I decided to come home for my birthday, hoping maybe things would change. Maybe they'd finally be proud of me, not just of Sarah. But instead, I heard, "We had to cancel your birthday dinner. We need the money for Sarah's tickets." I smiled and nodded, even though inside everything burned. Once again, I was the backup daughter, the one who understands and steps aside. What I didn't know back then was that the truth would come out in this very house. And that truth would change not just my family, but my entire life. When I walked back into my old bedroom, it felt both familiar and painfully foreign. The same faded walls, the same creaky floorboards, but the shelves were still lined with Sarah's awards and photos. It was like the house itself had erased me. I sat down on my childhood bed. I was 32 years old, yet I felt like the same 16-year-old girl who had been told that her birthday wasn't that important. Dinner that night wasn't about me, it was all about Sarah. The table was covered with glossy brochures of European cities, as if the whole meal was a rehearsal for her grand trip. "I've already booked a yoga studio in Berlin," Sarah gushed, waving her hands. "It's going to be such an incredible experience." My parents listened, wide-eyed, nodding at every word. I sat across the table, smiling politely, even though every word made my stomach twist. At some point, my dad finally looked at me, almost like he remembered I was there. "So how's your computer job? Still at the same place?" "Yeah, it's fine. Busy, but stable," I replied. They nodded, then instantly turned their attention back to Sarah. The next morning, my mom asked me to go grocery shopping. She said it was for dinner. But I quickly realized that the dinner wasn't for me. It was a send-off party for Sarah before her big trip. My birthday had officially disappeared from the calendar. At the store, I pulled out my phone and saw dozens of messages from my employees. Jessica, my assistant, had sent me a photo of a huge cake with the word "Happy Birthday" boss written on it. In San Francisco, I was celebrated. At home, I was invisible. That evening, something happened that no one at that table expected. In the middle of dinner, my phone rang. The screen lit up. Jessica. Normally, she never called unless it was urgent. "Go ahead, honey," my mom said, waving dismissively. "We understand your little office can't survive without you." I pressed speakerphone. "Sorry to bother you, Sophia," Jessica's voice came through, "but we need to confirm your private flight to Paris. Do you want me to book the same suite at the Muris, or should I reserve the Peninsula instead?" Silence. Fox dropped. My dad froze. Sarah stared with her wine glass halfway to her lips, and my mom looked like she had forgotten how to breathe. My face flushed hot. It was the truth, but this was not how I had planned to reveal it. "Jessica, we'll talk tomorrow," I said firmly. "I'm busy right now." "Of course, boss, and happy birthday again." Click. The call ended. My dad's voice was low but sharp. What was that supposed to mean? I took a deep breath. "It means I am the founder and CEO of NovaTech. We have 150 employees. We build educational software used in hundreds of schools, and yes, sometimes we use private flights because it's faster and more efficient." My mom stared at me as if she had never seen me before. "You hid this from us? Why didn't you ever tell us? Then when would I have had the chance?" I shot back. "When have you ever asked about my life? Not once." Sarah let out a dry laugh, laced with venom. "So now you're rich and successful. Is that why you came here? To show off?" "No," I shook my head. "I came here because I wanted to feel like part of this family again, but clearly it was a mistake." That night, lying awake in my childhood room, I knew everything had changed. The truth was out, and there was no going back. The next day, my mom came to me. She sat on the edge of my bed and spoke softly. "Sophia, you have to understand that Sarah is a crucial point in her life. She really needs this trip. You, on the other hand, you're already secure. Maybe you could support her." I almost laughed. Yesterday, they discovered their invisible daughter was a multimillionaire. Today, they were already asking me to bankroll Sarah. "Mom, she's an adult. This isn't support, it's exploitation." Her face hardened. "Don't be selfish. You've always been the reasonable one." Later, my dad pulled me aside. He didn't ask directly, but the guilt was obvious. You know your sister's dreamed of this trip her whole life. If you can't think about it. I realized nothing had changed. Even now, after the truth came out, Sarah was still the center of their universe. But then things went even darker. That evening, Sarah herself walked into my room. "You know, Sophia," she said, leaning against the doorframe, "if you don't help me, I'll tell everyone your success is nothing but stolen ideas and lucky breaks, and I might share a few details about your investor contracts too." My blood ran cold. "What are you talking about?" She smiled. "Don't underestimate me. I saw those papers Mom keeps in the cabinet. You've got obligations in it that could ruin your company. If I hand them over to the press, you're finished." I froze. My little sister, the one I'd defended my whole life, was blackmailing me. In that moment, I understood the real danger wasn't just my parents' favoritism. The real threat was my own sister. But I also knew one thing for certain. I wasn't going down without a fight. What would you do in my place to pay up to keep peace in the family, or fight back even if it meant losing them forever? Graham sat in our living room like he owned the place. His expensive suit and cold smile cut through the air sharper than the smell of my mom's pie. "Laura," my mom poured him tea as if he were an old friend, not the man holding a noose around my company's neck. I sat across from him, studying every move. He opened his folder and said smoothly, "According to the loan agreement, if there is a default, the voting rights on the stock package temporarily transfer to me. I trust you understand the seriousness of this." I forced a smile. "I understand perfectly, but I also understand that if you try to use that package against me, it will look like a hostile takeover, and investors don't like raiders, neither does the press. Do you really want that reputation, Mr. Wilson?" His eyes narrowed slightly, amused. "You've got spirit, but spirit won't save you. Your family is your weakness. It's not every day a creditor can hold collateral signed away by a debtor's own mother." My stomach turned. He was enjoying this game, and my mother, my own mother, just sat there and said nothing. After he left, the silence in the house was suffocating. I turned to my mom. "You invited him here? You knew he'd come?" She lowered her eyes but didn't flinch. "I did it for the family. You're strong, Sophia. You'll be fine. But Sarah, she still needs us. We have to protect her." I laughed, bitter and sharp. "You risk destroying my company, hundreds of people's jobs just to indulge Sarah's whims. That's not family, Mom. That's betrayal." Her voice rose. "Enough. You only ever think about your work. What about family? Sometimes you have to sacrifice for family." Late that night, I checked the hidden camera again. The footage was undeniable. Sarah sneaking into the living room, taking the documents, snapping pictures, and typing on her laptop. My pulse pounded in my ears. The next morning, headlines exploded. NovaTech documents leaked, suspicious numbers found. But within hours, a forum of experts posted, data clearly falsified, embedded markers proved tampering. The trap I had set worked. For the first time in days, I allowed myself a smile. But the relief didn't last long. That afternoon, I walked into the kitchen. My mom placed a steaming cup of tea in front of me. "You need to calm down," she said gently. "We all make mistakes. Drink this." I looked at her hands. They trembled slightly. Well, maybe mine did. Sarah had told me that Mom once gave her something to help her sleep when she was upset, and she woke up to find her social media account had mysteriously posted private information. A chill ran through me. I didn't touch the tea. "Thanks, Mom, but I'll stick with coffee," I said, pushing it away. For a split second, I caught something in her eyes, annoyance, almost anger. That day, I met with my attorney. We laid out the plan, buy out the debt, close the loan, and take away Graham's leverage. But to do that, I needed hard proof that my family had acted behind my back. And I had plenty: the hidden camera, the forged documents, the emails. That evening, I finally confronted my dad. He was in the garage, his hands greasy, fiddling with some old engine. "Dad, Did you know Mom signed my shares over as collateral? He looked down. Yes, I tried to stop her, but she said it was the only way to help Sarah. I didn't understand the risk. I should have fought harder. I'm sorry, Sophia. There was so much guilt in his voice it almost broke me. He wasn't the villain, he was a pawn. But pawns can still cost you the game. That night, Sarah went nuclear. She didn't wait for negotiations. She posted one of the stolen pages online, the very page with my canary trap marker. Her caption read, "My sister's company is a fraud. The world deserves the truth." My phone blew up with calls from journalists. The board demanded answers. I stormed into her room. She sat on her bed, glowing with adrenaline. "You brought this on yourself," she sneered. "You've always acted like you were better than me. Now everyone will know the real you." I stepped closer. "No, everyone will know the truth about you, and when this is over, you'll have to answer for it." I finally understood. This wasn't just favoritism anymore. This was a conspiracy. My mother, my sister, and a man named Graham. They weren't just undermining me, they were trying to take everything. But I wasn't done fighting. What would you do in my shoes? Give up everything just to keep some kind of relationship with your family, or fight to the end even if it meant losing them forever? The morning started with a call from Jessica. "Sophia, it's happening today. The board wants answers. Either you pay off the loan and clear up the press scandal, or they'll launch an investigation that could cost you your seat as CEO." My chest tightened. I knew today would decide everything. The house was suffocatingly tense. My mom cooked breakfast, but the smell of eggs only mixed with the bitter taste of unspoken words. Sarah scrolled through her phone, waiting for her next rush of attention. My dad, as always, disappeared into the garage. I stood in the doorway and said firmly, "Today this ends, and you're all going to witness it." Mom turned sharply. "You're going to destroy this family just to save your company?" "No, Mom," I said. "I'm going to protect myself from your lies." The board meeting began over video call. Their faces filled the screen, serious, skeptical, ready to pounce. I started calmly. "Here is camera footage of my sister taking documents. Here are the embedded markers in those files. Here's proof she forwarded them to someone named Miles Harleys. Here's her social media post accusing me of fraud. And here is the expert analysis proving the numbers were falsified." I paused, letting the silence settle. "And here are the loan papers. My mother signed away part of my shares without my knowledge. That's a violation of the trust, but as of today, the debt is paid off, the loan is closed, and the shares are back under my control." Graham leaned into the camera with that smug grin. "You're being dramatic, Miss Sophia. The board wants facts, not family soap operas." I angled the laptop so the camera showed both him and my mother. "Fact, you conspired with my family to pressure me. Fact, you encouraged a data leak. Fact, you came into my home with threats." The directors whispered among themselves. One of them finally spoke. "If these claims hold up, we'll back Sophia. Manipulating a CEO through family is unacceptable." That's when my mom lost control. She jumped up, tears in her eyes, and cried, "Fine, yes, I signed the papers, yes. I put Sarah first, but what mother wouldn't? I did what I had to do to protect her." It was a performance, a desperate attempt to shift the narrative. But I stayed calm. "You had the right to be Sarah's mother, but you never had the right to gamble with my life to do it." Then came the twist I never saw coming. Sarah suddenly dropped to her knees in front of the camera. "It was me, all of it. I stole the files. I leaked the data. I just wanted to prove I wasn't invisible compared to my sister. Mom only tried to cover for me. I'm the guilty one." I froze. For a moment, I almost believed her. But then I saw the flicker in her eyes. This was staged. Someone told her to confess to protect Mom and Graham. The board exchanged looks. If the sister takes full responsibility, then NovaTech is in the clear. "Sophia, you remain CEO. Family matters are your personal business." The call ended. In the living room, chaos broke loose. My mom wrapped Sarah in her arms, whispering words of comfort. Graham quietly gathered his papers, his grin still plastered on his face. I sat alone, the weight of it crashing down. I had kept my title. I had defended my company. But my family? They were gone. That night, my dad came to me. Sophia, I should have stood up to them. I should have stopped it. But I want you to know I'm proud of you. Even if your mom and sister can't say it, I am. For the first time in days, something warm broke through the emptiness. But I knew the storm wasn't over. Later that night, Sarah came quietly into my room. Her eyes were red, her voice barely a whisper. They forced me to confess. Graham said if I didn't, he'd leak even more. Mom begged me to. I'm sorry, Sophia. I don't even know what's real anymore. I stared at her, torn between anger and pity. She looked less like my enemy and more like a scared little girl. But could I really believe her? What would you do if you were me? Forgive your sister if she was being used as a pawn, or shut her out completely to protect yourself? The officer sat at our warm living room table like it was an interrogation room. Beside him was Graham Wilson, clutching that ever-present briefcase that seemed to hold other people's futures inside. Sarah stood near the window, hugging herself, while my mom, Laura, sat stiffly on the couch, her hands trembling just enough to notice. I sat across from them, steadying my breath. The officer cleared his throat. So let me recap. Yesterday a broken window. Today a claim that family members used a trust loan to pressure you, Miss Sophia, while sensitive company documents were leaked. Is that correct? That's correct, I said. And I've already turned over both digital markers in the files and video footage from inside the house. My legal team has them. Graham smirked. Miss Sophia is exaggerating. We're talking about a standard loan provision, nothing personal. I locked eyes with him. Exploitation disguised as a formality, and let's note for the record, officer, this man showed up at my home, not a lawyer's office to pressure me, invited here by my mother. My mom snapped. I invited him so we could settle this as a family. No, Mom, I said coldly. We settle this in front of lawyers, under record. The officer scribbled in his notebook, then finally stood. For now, we'll log this statement. If your evidence checks out, you can move forward legally, and Mr. Wilson, keep your business matters in proper channels. When the door closed behind them, the house seemed to exhale, but the air was heavier than before. By midday, I had gathered every piece of evidence, the trust papers, screenshots, email trails, the video clip of Sarah stealing the files. Jessica, my assistant, had already wired the funds to close the loan. Tomorrow morning, I'd meet a notary and my attorney. My goal wasn't just to clear the debt. I wanted every single lever Graham had against me ripped out of his hands. I found my dad in the garage, tinkering with an old radio, oil stains on his fingers. Dad, tomorrow morning in notary's office. You're coming with me. You sign those papers. You'll help me fix them. He nodded slowly, shame in his eyes. I'll come. I should have stopped this long ago. That evening, Sarah appeared at my bedroom door. Her face was bare, her voice almost childlike. They made me confess, she whispered. Graham said if I didn't, he'd leak school names and real numbers. Mom begged me. I didn't know what else to do. I stared at her, silent. I'll make a statement, she rushed on. I'll say I messed up, that I posted drafts by mistake, that I let Miles trick me. Will you forgive me if I do? Her eyes searched mine desperately, like forgiveness was the only oxygen she had left. Forgiveness doesn't mean I'll let you hurt me again, I said. Make your statement. Tomorrow, you're coming to the lawyer with me, and you're not going anywhere near Europe anytime soon. She nodded, small and honest. Then, almost too softly, she added, be careful with Mom. I think she drugged me once. I woke up after drinking her tea, and my social account had posted things I didn't remember. I don't know if it's an excuse, but it happened. Ice ran down my spine. That cup of tea my mom had pressed into my hands, the one I refused, that's not an excuse, I said quietly. That's a fact, and facts matter. Morning came bright and cold. My dad and I drove out early. The notary stamped the documents. The bank confirmed, debt closed, collateral released. The trust package now had a neutral administrator, no longer in my mother's control. My lawyer read the final line aloud, effective immediately. No creditor has voting rights over this stock package. Any attempt to exercise them is invalid. I felt like chains had snapped off my chest. By noon, we faced Graham and Laura in my attorney's office. Jessica was patched in by video. Graham still smiled like a man convinced he'd win. The debt is paid, the lawyer announced. The shares are free. Any further interference will be treated as abuse of process. Graham stood, feigning indifference. Fine, we're finished here. No, I cut in. We're not. You conspired with my family to sabotage me. You encouraged a leak, and we have the evidence, including audio of you telling Miles to use the hard scenario if I resisted. Thanks, Sarah, for that recording. For the first time, Graham's smirk vanished. You're twisting context. The context is for the courtroom, my Laura said flatly. You have 48 hours, I told him. Sign a public statement admitting the data was fabricated and waive any future claims. Otherwise, I'll see you in court for extortion. The clock on the wall ticked loud enough to fill the silence. Graham exhaled. Fine, I'll sign, but you'll regret making me your enemy. I only regret one thing, I said. Being your pawn for this long. We stepped outside into the bright California sun. My mom sat on the stone steps, clutching her purse. She looked at me with wet eyes. Why do you always make things so hard? Sophia, I just wanted Sarah to have a chance. You always figured things out on your own. She never could. You didn't give me a chance, Mom, I said softly. You took it from me over and over, and you didn't see what that turned me into. Her lip trembled. For the first time, she looked lost. I don't know how to be your mother anymore. Didn't start with this, I said. Stop being my enemy. That night, Dad handed me a crumpled letter, written in his rough handwriting. I'm proud of you. I'm sorry I didn't protect you. I'll learn. I held it to my chest like a lifeline. Sarah came to me again, holding her phone. I posted the video, she said. I admitted the leak was mine. I told people I only wanted attention, and I cancelled my trip, not because you told me to, because I need to fix myself first. For once, her voice sounded steady, and for the first time in years, I let myself believe her. That's a start, I said. But from now on, no shortcuts. You want something, you earn it. I'll give advice, not money. She nodded. No drama, no tantrum, and just acceptance. The next day, Jessica called with news. Graham signed the waiver. The tabloids published a retraction. The board is happy. They even sent you personal notes of support, and the school district officially added your data security model to their ethics curriculum. Your canary trap is now a case study. I laughed for the first time in weeks. Perfect irony. Let's send a thank you note to the chaos. And don't forget, Jessica added, your birthday isn't over yet. We've got pizza and one tiny candle waiting at the office. Warmth bloomed in my chest. This year, I said, that's more than enough. When I finally left Oakwood, the quiet streets and faded blue house disappeared in the rearview mirror. Behind me was the place where my birthdays were cancelled, where I was always the afterthought. Ahead was the company, the people who saw me not as a spare, but as a leader. Maybe one day there'd be a path back to my family. But it would have to be real, without lies, without leverage, without poison tea. For now, I had what mattered, the right to choose my own life. And yes, I'm still Sophia. Not perfect, not convenient, but alive. If you were in my shoes, would you give your mother a second chance, or would you walk away forever to protect yourself? That's the end of today's story. Thank you so much for staying with me until the end. I'd love to hear your thoughts. so share them in the comments below. I truly enjoy reading what you have to say. If you'd like more, check out the full playlist linked in the description of this video. New real stories are on the way, and I'd love to share them with you. Hopefully, I'll see you next time. If this journey resonated with you, please hit subscribe and tap the bell so you'll never miss the latest stories. Thank you for listening.